Hello, welcome back to the channel. So today I am in Metcon Gym, which is in Whitworth near Rochdale. And I've got my extra small animal top on now. I'm lying. This is a 2XL, believe it or not. Just unfortunately, the fit is a little bit tight, so you have to forgive me on that one. But today I'm gonna be training chest and triceps. But I've done a Q&A on my Instagram and got a few questions. Some serious, some a little bit jokey, but I'm just going to run through those as I begin my chest session. So we'll start from the top. I'm not sure, as I say, some of them, I'm not sure how serious people are when they ask them, but we'll see how they go. So the first question, me or Demetrius Johnson, and I'm 260 plus pounds. Now this is a bit of a spin-off from Bradley Martin. I'm not sure if people know or not, but Bradley Martin he's a famous influencer, fitness guy, whatever, and he has people on his podcast, professional fighters, by the way, world champion professional fighters, and he always says how in a street fight he could beat them because he's 260 pounds. So, on that note, me being 280 pounds, I think 285 pounds today, in fact, could I beat Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson? So for those who don't know, he is a bantamweight, featherweight, considered one of the best of all time in the UFC. Could I beat him in a fight? Do you know what? I'll be honest with you, no. I don't have any formal training with fighting, and I'm not one of these guys who's like, yeah, I can do this, you know, the red mist descends. I'm not one of these guys. So no, I'm gonna know my place. You know, I don't think that I could take someone, even if he was, you know, half my size in terms of body weight. I think sometimes you need to know your place. So I'd give Demetrius Johnson the nod on this one. So the next question is, I have a holiday in 3 months' time. How much weight can I lose in that time? Now, that is a bit of a tough one to answer because it's a little bit of a broad question. So it kind of depends. It depends how hard you're going to try. It depends on how much of a deficit you're going to put yourself in. It also depends on your start position. So I can't really give you a solid answer. I think the answer I'd give to anyone who asks that is, well, how badly do you want to change? How badly do you actually want that result? You know, if you're someone who's pretty casual and you find yourself, you know, not able to stick to a plan, the answer is going to be, unfortunately, not a lot. You're not going to change too much. But if you really dedicate yourself, you know, regardless of your level, if you're someone who's carrying, you know, 25%, 30% body fat, if you really try, you're going to make a massive dent in 3 months. You can change a lot in that time. Unfortunately though, we are all governed by our genetics. So, how much I can change, you can change, or someone else can change, is not always going to be the same. And it can seem almost unfair because you think to yourself, I'm trying so hard and I'm not getting the same result as that guy, why? And you know, we're all governed by our genetics. So all you can do is all you can do, right? So as long as you are doing everything that you can, everything, the variables that you can control, you're controlling, you're going to change pretty well. So roughly going for about 2 to 3 pounds per week body weight loss is pretty realistic for a lot of people. Too much and you risk losing muscle mass. Not enough and you risk losing motivation. So you want to get that sweet spot where you are able to drop a decent amount of weight without, you know, sending yourself into the ground and being too energyless to actually train with any intensity. And I just want to say as well, if you see the camera going all over the place, my really good friend Danny is actually recording this. He's got a new gimbal and I think it's not quite playing ball at the moment. I don't know if they're friends at the moment, you know, so yeah. So what's the question please, mate?
How much protein to eat in a day?
So how much protein to eat in a day? Again, this is going to be relative to the person. I think a good gauge for most people is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's a pretty good gauge. What I would also say on top of that, if you're someone who's looking to build muscle, go a little bit higher. I almost think of it as like an insurance that you are definitely going to be eating enough protein. You know, if you're someone who, let's say you weigh 200 pounds and you're just scraping 200 grams of protein, I would say, you know, it's probably enough, but just my anecdotal experience tells me, just go a little bit more. You know, go to around 220, 230 grams of protein. That should be pretty sufficient. And the good thing about protein being higher as well is it's really satiating. So if you're going up or down, especially if you're going down, if you are more satisfied with the food that you're eating, you're less likely to cheat. So higher protein means you're going to be fuller for longer. A few benefits along the way. I might even keep this in, you know.
Right, so the next question is, what is your current height and body weight?
Right, my current height and body weight. Well, current height. It's funny enough you say that. I get measured at my shows, and it appears with age, I'm getting smaller. So I've always called myself 6'3", which is 191 centimeters. And I measured myself at my last show. I was 190. So maybe that's age catching up with me, like gravity's pushing me down. So, but yeah, 6'3" is what I'm gonna go with anyway, regardless. I used to say 6'4", and I was clearly lying for years. 6'3" is my height, and my body weight currently is 285 pounds. But again, that kind of varies depending on what stage I'm at. I'll step on stage at around 255 to 260 pounds. So in kilograms, that's roughly around 115 to 116 kilograms. The heaviest I've ever been is 310 pounds. When I was there, it was horrendous. You know, it's really not a comfortable place to be. So my sweet spot, I would say, is probably roughly where I'm at now. I'm not too uncomfortable. I've got a little bit of a belly, but it's okay. So roughly around 275 to 285 is a really sweet spot for me. Can maintain that forever. All right, favorite off-plan meal. Ooh, I'm a little bit boring with this one, I'm sorry to say, but my food desires are not like that of a typical bodybuilder. I'm not someone who obsesses about food, to be honest with you. But that being said, there are definitely foods that I find easier to eat than others. And those foods would be probably a pizza. Domino's Pizza. Do you know, there's actually a place in Southampton, if anyone from Southampton is watching. It's called Smoky Pizza in Portswood High Street. The best pizza I've ever had in my life. I would say pizza is probably my favorite, followed by burger and chips. I've also got a pretty sweet tooth. No matter how full I am, no matter what stage I'm at, I can always eat chocolate. I can always eat chocolate. I feel like quite feminine saying that. That's like more of a thing that, am I being sexist? I think I might be being sexist there. I think girls always talk about chocolate, but I absolutely love it. And no matter how full I am, there's always room for chocolate. This would be good to keep in, honestly.
Yeah, no, it won't.
Yeah, well, that gimbal is. So the best piece of advice to get sponsored or noticed. That's tough. I think in today's climate, it's different. Because when I first started, I sound like an old guy now, don't I? Back in my day, but I think now everything is online and online presence. Some of the most popular people aren't necessarily the best bodybuilders or the best whatever they do. So it definitely is about your online persona. So thinking that you can just win a show and then you're gonna have sponsors knocking at your door is probably the wrong way to go about things. I would say having a personality, but don't force it. The personality needs to come out as it comes out, like naturally. You know, if you are trying really hard to be funny, trying really hard to be a certain thing, people see through that. And so just being active on social media, be yourself, have a personality. I guess you can't force that though. But then again, to kind of like go against what I've just said, you do also need to be good because you need to be marketable for that company. You know, why would someone invest in you if they're not going to get a return on their investment, right? So you need to show qualities that are going to align well with that, you know, with that company, whether that's your training methodology, whether that's your personality, whether that's your achievements, whatever, or a combination of all of those. So I think, you know, let things happen naturally rather than try and force them. You know, be good at your chosen activity, be active, have a personality. What is the best animal product for muscle growth? So it's probably a bit of an obvious one really, but you know, the building blocks for muscle growth are amino acids, and the product with the most amino acids is going to be that. But in particular, whey protein, which is going to have a really complete amino profile within it. So yeah, the animal whey protein, the vanilla one I've got, honestly, it tastes absolutely amazing. And I think anyone who's serious about training should be taking whey protein. It's especially true as well. I think a lot of the time when I come across like what I would consider a lifestyle client, you know, someone who's not doing it for a job, they just want to be in better shape. they struggle to get their protein in. And one of the easiest ways to get, higher protein, high levels of protein in is via a whey protein. If you're just trying to get it from chicken and beef and eggs, it's fairly difficult to get, 200, 250 grams of protein in. So, whey protein, a drink, a shake that you can do in maybe 10, 15 seconds, beautiful. Next question. Favorite body part to train? I'm doing it right now. So it's a weird one. I have an underdeveloped chest relative to my level, relative to my physique. I have overdeveloped shoulders. And I think it's a little bit, it's my own fault. For years and years and years, in fact, I'll show you right now. I would train being very delt dominant when I was doing chest. So if you watch my chest, it kind of like collapses and I push forward with my chest, with my shoulders, excuse me. So instead, in the last sort of like 5 to 10 years, everything's been very much more about emphasizing my chest when I do movements. And here's something that's relative to, I think that most people would feel something similar, but certainly for me, we're having an underdeveloped chest. When I have a chest pump, my physique kind of comes to life. So if I were just to take my top off without training or anything, I have overdeveloped shoulders, my lats are pretty big, I'm quite a tall guy, so my chest ends up looking a bit flat. When I've got a chest pump, I actually don't mind how I look, which is quite nice. It's a nice change because I think we're quite critical of ourselves as well. So when you actually look at yourself and actually like what you see, that's a bonus. So yeah, chest training. Yeah, exactly. So what's the best way to train and do cardio when on 1,500 calories per day? I don't really have any context at the moment, so I don't know how long you've been training, I don't know how big you are, I don't know anything. So it's fairly low. It's fairly low, and I would say that it's probably not sustainable, and you probably don't need to do cardio. Based on experience, I think you might be overdoing it. There is no other secret though, by the way. Cardio and training are the ways in which to get in shape. Obviously accompanied with diet, but there's not another thing that's available to you. So your output, which is cardio and training, that's going to be vital, regardless of whether you're on 1,500, 2,000, 3,000, 6,000, whatever. So without too much context, it's going to be quite hard for me to give you a full answer, but it does sound like you're probably pushing a little bit too hard and you probably need to eat a bit more food. Because remember, we're bodybuilding, we're not just trying to diet ourselves into oblivion. You want something that's going to be enjoyable, going to deliver you a result, and it's going to be sustainable for a longer period of time. And 1,500 calories sounds pretty tough. Okay, so that is the questions. I had a few more, but I just decided to crop it down rather than just doing every single one that came through. And so that's Emily's post show done. We've had a couple of days of eating that you'll see from the last YouTube episode. We are now on day 3 of our post show, and I think she's still going a bit crazy, and I think she wants me to, indulge with her. My appetite is not like hers because obviously I'm 8 weeks post show now. So for me, things are calmer. So my food has gone back to the regular level, which I'm going to show you in a bit.